Respects voters, and we have enough
HeartCity
voting power to change anything that needs to be changed.
Politics, progress, game boards, objects viewed like pawns till we change up our mindset. Value of the dollars at the center of this conflict. Their lives only matter if they serve to make a profit. But if a midget sees further on the shoulders of a giant, then we should see further than the tyrant and build a future within alliance with successes. Our science in the quest to go higher. It's the heart of the city.
Wake up, world. Welcome to another episode of HeartCity TV. I'm your host, Malik Boyd. I hope that wherever you are in good spirits and all is truly well. The show topic today, moving forward. We're past the election, yet there's still so much work to do, not just for the country, but for African Americans, for Black America. Where do we stand? How do we move forward so that there is sustained progress in the days to come? This show is going to break down that topic and much more. But you know, I am always excited for those who honor us in prayer. They cover us constantly. Their charge, their heart is designed to love people, love on people, and have a love for people. One such individual is my brother, Elder Morris Singleton. It's always good to have him with us on HeartCity. He's back. He is a fan favorite. They love him out here. I get the comments. Look, bring Morris back to the show.
Oh, man.
I'm excited that Kendall was able to do just that. Pastor Morris, thank you so much for being back home on HeartCity.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Listen, brother, there's a lot going on in the world. And a lot going on in the city of Philadelphia as well, where we're broadcasting, but across the country. And for those who are watching the broadcast on the various outlets, they understand that there's some challenging times that exist. Absolutely. In the home, in the community, the city, the country. You have been charged, and you've answered this charge by God to be there for his kingdom and for his people. Yes. And I want people to understand that his people also reflects all of creation. He wants all of creation to be covered under his mercy, his love, but then also his wisdom, because we need a lot of wisdom right now. Yeah. There are a lot of tough decisions for the country. You get a chance to see some of the pieces that happen in the major media outlets, but then much of it that goes unreported. And so I'm going to ask you, with all that you know, with all that you've seen and experienced, to lead us into our 2-minute prayer for the city.
Absolutely. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you, Lord, for today. For this is the day that you have made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. God, you know the situations of our land. You know the situation of our country. God, I need you to intervene on our behalf. We thank you, Lord, for turnaround that's going to come. We may be in something right now, but turnaround will soon come our way. But God, teach us how to endure. Teach us how to love one another the right way, even in this time. Teach us, Lord, how to be there for one another in this time. I pray for those that are in the sick room right now, for those that are in a hospital that has no company. Be their company, Lord, in the name of Jesus. Protect, cover our families, God. Protect, cover this nation, God. You know what's going on in the White House, and we ask you, Lord, for better things to come in the name of Jesus. Oh, God, we actually touch leaders all across this land. Touch our host, God, in the name of Jesus. Continue on doing great things for him and his life. And I ask you to bless every viewer, every listener in the name of Jesus, that you will give them comfort, peace, and joy. We give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Pastor, thank you so much for covering us in prayer. Victory Community is the name of the church and the mission as well. Victory for the community. Tell the listening audience what's happening on your side of the kingdom.
So we just actually celebrated our 61st church anniversary on this past Sunday.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah, we
Yes,
were,
sir.
praise God, in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Amen. Masked up, amen. We were being safe, social distancing, and our majority of our crowd, of course, is virtually.
Mhm.
We have just a handful that are there just to make sure that things is going well. So we are grateful for that. On this coming Friday, we are actually partnering up with a great friend of mine, Pastor Jonathan Mason, who is a pastor of the Northeast Baptist Church at 4744 Tackawanna Street. They are giving away 1,000 pounds, 1,000 boxes of 25-pound boxes of free food.
Okay.
Free food. 1,000 boxes are being given away. What we are going to do, we're hoping that on this coming Friday that we also will take a few of those boxes, at least 100, bring them to the Germantown community and give them out in front of the church on this coming Friday because people need food. Amen. We want to be there for the community, and we're so grateful for this partnership.
Look, and it's an exciting thing. I told my team, and I spent some time in Washington yesterday, and I was telling the team there, I think the theme this year is back to basics.
Absolutely.
We've got to get back to basics in 2021, and that basic love, that basic care and concern for folk, and addressing the basic needs of folk, because we can't talk about the high level things without dealing with the immediate on the ground needs, right?
You're right.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but even Jesus said, look, I got to feed these folk.
That's right.
Before I break down some other spiritual food. And so I'm excited about the work that you're doing and in partnership with sister churches as well. Sure. You've seen the recent events. You know what's happening in the space, not just locally, but also nationally. From your heart to the broadcast audience, what is God telling you in terms of a focal point for the community?
Love the people. Love the people. Continue on encouraging them. There's a lot that's going on in the mindset mentally with people being indoors for this long period of time, trying to multitask with making sure that their child is doing well on online school and working from home at the same time. And then you have those that are unemployed and don't know when the next paycheck gonna come through. Unemployment sometimes are delayed in giving out those payments. And now you have people that are frantic and wondering how those bills will be paid. We gotta love one another. We're stuck in the house. We're stuck indoors, and we have to love one another and encourage each other. And that's been pretty much my main focal point. Even preaching and teaching virtually is talking about love, talking about building your faith, and keeping yourself well. That's what we got to do. We got to keep ourselves well. Back away from the table sometimes. Don't.
You're talking to me, Pastor. You're speaking. You're bowling down my lane now.
That pandemic weight won't do you no good. So we gotta buckle ourselves in and get ourselves back to where we have to check ourselves and not lose our mind in this, and knowing that we will never be the same again. We're gonna come out this differently. But what have you done in this time of seclusion? What have you done in this time where you had a chance now to get plans together to make yourself a better you? And I'm going to talk about love, how to build yourself up, and faith. Keep your faith strong.
It's amazing as you were talking and you gave the comment, which is so true. We're never coming back here again.
Never.
In this space. And that's something crucial for everybody to really understand. And I saw the imagery of the butterfly. I'm like, once that caterpillar leaves the cocoon, the butterfly is not looking to get back into the cocoon. He wants to learn, or he or she wants to learn how to fly at that point. And so the focus is now on flight, not on sheltering. And so I'm excited about that concept and understanding that truth and reality for us. I'm also excited that God has charged you, which you have willingly accepted, to be one of the leaders of this time, really, this season of change and transformation. And so tell the broadcast audience, for those who may not be in the Delaware Valley or in the footprint of the ministry, how they can worship and fellowship with you.
Absolutely. 5131 Germantown Avenue is where we're at, but we only have limited space. As we know, we are in the new guidelines. We only at 5% capacity now for the religious organization. So I welcome you. And I encourage you just to worship with us online. Victory Community Baptist Church of Germantown on Facebook. We are live 11:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings and on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. where it's more intimate, where I'm praying for you. I'm reading your comments and we're having a conversation going back and forth. I love everyone with the love of Jesus. I want everyone to be well.
Listen, Doc, we love you, man. We honor you and appreciate the work that God is doing in your life and the life of the ministry, and continue to pray that increase on your life. Give our love to the Victory family, brother, and we'll talk and see each other soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have now been covered in prayer by my brother, Pastor Morris Singleton. Make sure that you go and check out Victory Community and the great work that they are doing in the space. Back to basics. That's where we need to be. And it's clear that Pastor Morris Singleton and the family over at Victory are doing just that. Staying focused on the basics, making sure that we have what we need as we make these important decisions for our lives. This is not just about business. It's not just about politics, not just about education, but it's also matters of the heart as well. Auntie Lou is in the building. And so when we go to a break on the other side, you'll hear from Lucretia, Coleman Clark, fan favorite for us and many of our listeners when we were on the radio format. And now on this side with the broadcast platform and the Now Network, we are excited to have Auntie Lou bless us with some of the wisdom that God has imparted into her. I'm headed to a break. Take out your stethoscope. You're watching HeartCity TV. We'll be right back.
Ever since we were little girls, you've compared us to each other. My game versus her game. My ranking versus her ranking. My titles versus her titles. My Grand Slams versus her Grand Slams. It's funny. You saw two tennis players trying to win a game. We saw two sisters changing it.
The Philadelphia Opportunities Industrialization Center is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide education, training, and employment services to assist the unemployed, underemployed, homeless, and disadvantaged youth and adults. Visit philaoic.org to learn how OIC can help you achieve self-sufficiency and education, training, job placement, and through technology, access, and economic development for a better tomorrow. Call Philadelphia OIC.
We're back. You're watching HeartCity TV. The show topic today, moving forward. How do we move forward in this time? You'll hear from amazing leaders from many areas of industry and walks of life to break that down. Now, obviously, across the country, we're dealing with spikes of COVID-19 cases. We're watching states and cities begin to enact more stringent policies as it relates to COVID. And so here at HeartCity, we created a PSA of sorts for you to understand how to deal in this new COVID environment. We've played it before, but we think it is so important that we play it again. Here you go.
Let's stop coronavirus. Just follow these rules. Number 1, wash your hands. Isn't that what mom taught you? 2, don't touch your face. You're way too sexy for that. 3, cough into your elbow. Don't cough on other people. That's a fight where I'm from. 4, keep 1 meter distance apart. Back up and let me pay for these groceries, please. 5, feeling bad? Stay at home. Don't contact other people. Contact a doctor. Help stop coronavirus. Use common sense. Wake up, world. This was a public service message from your friends at HeartCity.
All we're saying, really simple. let's use common sense, guys. Wash our hands, keep the distance. For all the house parties, please chill out with all the house parties, these private engagements. It's so we can blame a president for late or no response. We can blame officials locally for late or no response. But when we're out partying, when we're still traveling for non-essential business, essentially for vacations and things of that nature, that's what puts us at risk. And even myself, I'm also learning how to try to change my schedule and shift from not just the things that we're doing essentially for the business, but how I take care of some of my other travel. Maybe it's Amazon, maybe it's paying attention to Black and Mobile and other delivery companies to make sure that we can still get some of the things that we need without having to move into space. The truth is, vaccine or not, and I've heard some of the conversation, some of y'all around the vaccine, you don't want to take it. And so in order for you to not have to be in a position where a vaccine is pushed onto America as a mandate, it's going to be really important that we pay attention to details and make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do. That's just common sense, especially the washing your hands and sneezing part. I learned a lot of that from my big mamas in the space, my mother, my grandmother, and then there were great, amazing aunts in the space who added wisdom, value, insight, and I have yet another aunt who's doing some pretty amazing things, not just in the city where she resides, but around the world, helping us to change our lives for the better. Auntie Lou, Lucretia Coleman Clark is in the building. Welcome back home to Heart City. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks again for the invitation.
We need some wisdom. We need some insight. And you have all of that. You are a certified coach. You've been a certified life enthusiast, an award-winning artist and published author. I mean, the list goes on. When we need some perspective, when we need some advice, we call Auntie Lou. And she brings it. And so before we dig into the issues of the day, which are many, tell the broadcast audience, what are you up to? I mean, since last time we talked, I know there were ongoing projects, consulting work that's been happening. So what's new in the world of Auntie Lou?
What's new? Well, I'm starting some painting. I'm doing some painting in my home studio. I've had that on the back burner for a while, but I realized that it was a major way for me to release my anxiety. So I picked up the paintbrush and I'm starting to create some new artwork. I'm also very involved in a nonprofit organization, which is dear to our family. It's a nonprofit called Joshua's Gift, which focuses on resources and awareness for families living with autism. So that's just some of the things I'm doing, plus getting ready for the holidays.
So let's talk about holidays. I think that's a great segue into where we need to go. Anxiety is at an all-time high. You talked about this opportunity to add art to your daily regimen and as a mental and creative release. Many of us are trying to find our way through this new normal, or at least this season and time. How do we ensure that we do not lose our ever loving minds in the midst of new restrictions around COVID and this new climate that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, well, one way is to take a deep breath and exhale, and to be conscious of that breath, because there is so much going on, so many distractions. We're being bombarded with news reports, social media, and when we take all that in, we forget about taking care of our individuality.
Yeah.
So there are ways that we can just be mindful of living in the moment, taking a moment just to listen to your heart, to your inner space, that inner voice that you hear, be connected with God.
Yeah.
And take time for yourself. It's really important. Otherwise, you get overwhelmed and you're going to feel the negative impact of all that anxiety and distraction.
You know, for me, I have grown.
Mm.
And it's funny because I just had this conversation yesterday with a friend. I've grown to enjoy organized chaos. Made a living in being able to solve issues for clients in the midst of organized chaos, right? You can, I can walk in a room where things are just going helter skelter and help that client or that friend begin to sort through some things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest challenge for me has been hearing that still voice in the midst of this recent chaos.
Yeah.
And finding that balance point. And so for, I know executive women of color get a chance to hear from you on a daily basis. That's one of your primary points. But for brothers, for men who are dealing with, I have to work and provide. I have, these relationships that relied on social activity for me. It's important for me to be on the golf course with certain folk to try to elevate and get to the next level. And now there's restrictions, and how do I move, and how do I still hold this position of king that my community so lovingly calls me in the midst of. Help us to begin to fine tune that and hear our still voice. What are some of the steps that we can take to kind of settle down in the space?
First, acknowledge that we need to identify that space. And you have to communicate that need to others, whether it be your partner, your spouse, your family members, your colleagues. You have to let those individuals know that it's important for you to identify me time where you are setting boundaries so that you can recharge, reconnect, and revitalize who you are. And the other people, the individuals that are important to you, need to recognize that. And they also need to respect that time, whether it be 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
Or more. But it's like, okay, that's my time. No interruptions. And that has to be respected and done on a continuous basis.
So one of the things that I gleaned from what you were saying was not just one's individual ability to communicate their need, but also an active listening ear from the friends and those who love and support. I seem to think that is something, at least for myself, that I can learn to do better in, because many times we listen to respond and not listen to actually hear and understand. And so can you talk about ways, without giving your secret sauce, because there is a consultancy here, but how do we begin to truly listen and get into an active listening space? Many of us listen with the intent to just respond back.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience, because I like you, I have a tendency to always want to do for others and get in there at the 11th hour. And I'm like, okay, I got to fix this and do that, and for everyone else. But one of the tips that can be incorporated is having that physical space in your home.
Okay.
Whether it be in your closet or a corner in your bedroom. Identify a specific time. Put on some very nurturing music. Turn off the electronics. I mean, physically turn off the phone. Don't just put it on silent. You need to turn it off.
Yeah.
So that those waves don't come through. And then just meditate. Close your eyes and think of something that's very relaxing. For me, it's the beaches of Jamaica.
There you go.
And then when you take time and you concentrate with your eyes closed, You want to incorporate all of your senses. You want to taste the foods. You want to feel the breeze against your skin. You want to hear the waves rolling. And once you get into tune with that, you are one within yourself and your divine spirit.
Wow. So that's something that I don't do. I may think of a memory, a good place, not necessarily transport myself there mentally in order to kind of include the other senses. And so I'm learning, even as you're breaking this down, ways that I can fine tune. You talked about the phone, and you, Lord knows you walked right into my front doorstep when when you talked about the phone, because in a space where news is flying, where a timeline can, in the matter of an hour, contain well over 2,000 pieces of various pieces of information, articles, viewpoints, opinions, we become addicted to those notifications. And in fact, Social Dilemma and other documentaries talk about how these algorithms are designed to draw us back in the further we try to get away from the platform. Talk about the impact of social media on just the community in general, and how we can begin to put it in perspective. I know for me, my phone tells me how long I spend in particular categories.
Yes.
And somehow social media ends up number one or number two, no matter what I do. But how do I begin to structurally plan to place myself in more productive spaces?
Most of our phones have the ability to designate quiet times.
Okay.
I have mine to shut down at 9:00 p.m.
Really?
9 p.m. Well, I live with someone who has very early night. So,
that's true. That is true.
So I don't receive any notifications.
Okay.
What I'm struggling with, because I am a business owner and because I do have family in other time zones, it's difficult for me to take that phone and just turn it totally off. Right. So, I don't always practice what I preach. However, I have found ways where only certain individuals may contact me based on emergency. And I have told individuals no calls after a certain time.
Yeah.
And they have to respect that.
Yeah.
But with all the social media, we're replacing that with actual, exchange with human beings. Right. I'm like, you know what? I'm not texting this person to wish them a happy birthday. Yeah. I'm going to call them. I want them to hear my voice. We're losing that human connection, which I'm so concerned that, if we don't use it, we will lose it over time. I'm not saying next month or within 10 years, but I'm thinking generations ahead. We are losing that human connection, and that is a very slippery slope. So I urge individuals, the social media, it's going to be there. Okay.
Right.
It's going to be there, but we have to realize, take time to talk to the individual who's sitting there. I've actually seen where young people are in a room, even social distancing before and during, and they are on their phones texting each other. What the hey? Yeah. No. We need to maintain and we need to enhance that human connection, because as humans, we want that. We need it. We thrive off of that.
It's interesting that you said that. My wonderful daughter, Diamond, turned 19 yesterday. And so in the midst of my heart palpitations and apparent strokes. And I don't know what milk she drank because I didn't feed her whatever added those curves to her body. And so I'm here going, wow, 19 years, blessed to see her in this space and in this way. And she's there surrounded around friends and loved ones. And right after the candles were blown out, she got on the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, literally every kid got on the phone and they were content sitting at the table embedded in their phones, in their screens, not talking to each other. And so seeing that and hearing what you're saying, it seems as, COVID begins to break and vaccines are now fully deployed. Our priorities should really be finding that physical time with each other to reconnect the way the human experience was really intended. Is that pretty much where we need to go?
It's back to basics.
Back to
As
basics.
Pastor was saying earlier, and with today's theme of moving forward, it's back to basics. And in order for us to move forward, because like we stated earlier in your broadcast, we're never going to be in this space again. It's never going to be what it was before.
Right.
We're moving forward. We have to move forward, but we have to remember to love one another, show love for one another, respect one another.
Yeah.
But before doing that, we have to love and respect ourselves.
Wow.
And make sure that we are healthy so that we can connect with one another.
You just gave us a whole sermon series, book series, a whole tour. I'm calling Oprah right now. Get behind Auntie Lou and get in the room with that message. And so there is an amazing consultancy that you run.
Yes.
You make sure that executive women of color have the support that they need, the resources and tools to thrive and survive in not just the professional, but the personal space. Let's talk to the broadcast audience. How does one who's watching this broadcast now going, I need Auntie Lou in my life, Lord knows, how do they connect and begin to engage you and your firm?
Well, there are multiple ways to contact me. I do have a private Facebook group where it is high achieving Black women who want to be enlightened and empowered. And the name of that private Facebook group is Vibrant Black Women. I also can be contacted at livaciouslu.com, and individuals can send me an email and learn about upcoming projects and resources and programs that I am going to be offering, because come Black Friday that weekend, I am going to be sharing some nice gems for those individuals who need to release their anxiety and find ways to find their individual authenticity and vibrancy.
Listen, I am definitely excited about the great work you're doing. We're going to make sure that we also post it on our Facebook pages and social media as well, so that we can promote the great work that God has entrusted to you. Auntie Lou, it's always good to spend time with you, whether it be virtual or broadcast.
I know. Here's my hug to you.
Absolutely. My hug to you as well. We love you, honor you, and continue to pray God's increase on your life.
Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Will do. So we have heard from Auntie Lou. She broke it down. Look, love people. Love on people, but more importantly, love yourself, and which is so crucial in today's time, something that I am still learning myself. I think it is a never-ending journey as we encounter situations in life, as we encounter decisions and consequences of decisions made. Nonetheless, there is always an opportunity to fine-tune who you are and remember whose you are, and begin to move forward in that space. It's EKG time. These two individuals I absolutely adore. These folk are they are phenomenal. They are juggernauts in their own right. The first being superstar Sonia Lewis and my brother Dave Temple. Look, you guys are absolutely phenomenal. I'm always excited to see you. And we're now back home on Heart City. Welcome home, Sonia and Dave.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Man, I'm good. I'm trying to be like y'all when I grow up, man. I'm looking at y'all, your PR schedules. Dave's on tour. He's turning on virtual shows. Sonia saving a whole generation and creating a whole wealth quotient, which one, I'm excited, Sonia, about the great work that you're doing, because especially in this transition of economy, we have a new president, a new vice president who are focused on equity in wealth. You've been doing this work long before it became cool to talk about a Biden-Harris ticket. And so tell the listening audience what you're doing in this space and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We're going into a new season with a new president-elect, and he really, in my opinion, cares about the people and cares about their personal finances. So my personal mantra is, let's make America's personal finances great again. And we're going to start with student loan debt. And so this administration has been so vocal in talking about how they're going to help the American people with their student loans more than any other president or president-elect in history.
Right.
And so this is the first time I feel like somebody is listening to the millennial voice, listening to the African-American voice as it relates to student loan debt. It's the number one debt that plagues African-Americans, particularly African-American women. And so I'm excited to see that there's going to be some relief. It's funny because literally reports come in daily, like literally Biden said last night, he's like, we need to drop 10K. People need help now. I'm like, yeah, it's help. And so we've been having a lot of fun on social media. People can find us on Instagram, particularly the Student Loan Doctor. And my job is to literally get the news and translate what it means for people, because I think we take for granted that people log into their loans. I think we take for granted that people open their mail. I think we take for granted that people understand layman's terms, and sometimes they don't. So our platform is to make it really, really simple. Like, hey, these are your loans. This is what you have to do. This is how this could apply. Don't miss this. Don't miss out on 50K forgiveness is what he's talking about on top of other programs. Then additional 10K. So I'm like, I don't feel like we're going to leave this administration with a lot of student loan debt behind. So I'm excited to see what he does.
I'm excited to see not only the agenda that is proposed by the incoming administration, but then I'm looking forward to the synergies that will exist for people of color and organizations like yours that work to ensure and work with the government to ensure that we have wealth. Brookings Institute says by 2040, if we don't handle our business, median wealth for Black America will be at $5.46 per household. Much of that begins at the education space, our ability to pay for it without burdening our whole lives.
Right.
And ending in what I consider modern day slavery. So you're like our whole educational Harriet Tubman, freeing people.
Something like that.
Yeah, we love it. So I'm glad to have you with us for our EKGs. Dave,
what's happening, brother?
Dude, you're saving our sanity, brother. Without your comedic nature, without your shows, your content, look, life would be a little bit rough, man. And so as we navigate through this COVID, you have navigated us to laughter, to good times, man. We honor you. We love you for that. Talk about the great work that you're doing in the space.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's fascinating to even hear you speak it in that way. I really didn't see it that way. I just saw it as me yelling dumb jokes into the internet. But I guess it does give people a bit of hope. Right now I'm in LA as we are, putting together, as many socially distant shows as possible, with the different shutdowns. But it's fascinating to travel a bit, going through some different states and seeing things on the other side and understanding everybody's still having the same angst. Like I was just in Arizona this past weekend, and it was fascinating to be in the middle of the these new Trump rallies of the people out there. But I was also in Philadelphia when the Black Lives Matter rallies, or in New York. So to be in the middle of both sides of it, you realize like, wow, everybody just needs to come to this show and laugh for a little bit. Like, put it all down. Yeah. Let's put everything down for a second. Let's just go laugh for a few minutes, you know?
Absolutely, man. So we're excited about all that you're doing, and we're looking forward to sitting in a virtual seat.
Yeah. So I'm actually working on this with a studio now, Brooklyn 111 Studios. We're looking at a way where we could start live streaming some other live podcasts where, you know, we'll do a bit more virtual audience and, you know, see if we can hit a bigger audience with these things. So.
We love it. So, guys, are you ready for the EKGs?
Yeah.
Here we go.
This is the EKG, the part of the show where we place America front and center on the monitors of the American people. We will look for irregularities in the heartbeat, offer solutions on the issues we find in order to make America healthy once again. So fire up the machine. Let's start the EKG.
So this week's EKGs are brought to you by Dashuri CBD products. Make sure you check them out at mydashuri, DASHURI.com. Our first story. Now, Sonia, I know Dave going to tear this one up, so I know what's coming. But look at what we have here. Fox News, in the middle of a broadcast, they go to a footage of one of these Trump rallies that Dave was talking about. Mm-hmm. And a sign is lifted for all to see. Coming for Blacks and Indians first. Welcome to the new world order. Dave, I mean, you literally just, you're like Nostradamus. You just talked it right up. And then here we have a sign speaking to the same vitriol and energy that has divided America and sent 70 million with President Trump. And, you know, roughly a little bit more than that with President Biden. And so we recognize the country is split. I don't, you know, we can have all the unity conversation we want. We've got to be honest. Right now, we are split. But now they're coming for Blacks and Indians. What do you say to that, Dave?
Bro, Look, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, man, but I'm from Philly, and I know to keep my eye on the ball and not go for the okie doke. All right. Yeah. So when I see a sign like this, have you ever had to make a sign, Malik? Have you ever had to make a sign like that, right? You ever run out of space?
Mm-hmm. Very much.
You ever realize, like, dang, I ain't like, you know, like to make signs, it's got to be something that you do all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I don't think that the intellect exists in a person that follows politics, but is also dumb enough to go outside publicly with a sign that is well spaced out, and it's just and I don't even know where that narrative even comes from. I have not talked to enough people on that side to even find out where's the issue towards Blacks and Indians in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't even live near each other. So what is your beef with me?
That is hilarious.
Somehow you think that Blacks and Indians are your enemy. You went for the okie doke. What we're experiencing here now is we're experiencing a chicken fight, man. Because even in our community, Black people, a lot of us feel like white people are our enemy, and they're not. Right. We are on a capitalism side. Like she said, it's the debt, it's all of that. But the way to not focus on it is to keep us mad at each other. We all owe the same banks. As a country, we all owe other countries a ton of money, and no one is paying this back. They are trying to go to space. They are trying to go to Mars and leave us here with this debt. And we not paying any attention because we fighting. You understand what I'm saying? You ever try to get out of paying a bar tab because you know you spent too much money, so you just start a fight and then run out? You know what I mean? Like,
that is hilarious.
Bro.
So Sonia, I mean, Dave said, look, while we're in the middle of trying to get out of this bar tab that we ran up at Scooters and at Max's, we're now watching the haves try to leave the have-nots in a major way. And the way that messaging is occurring is through this racial, gender-focused misinformation campaign.
Yeah, you go to the bar and be like, yo, I heard this guy down here has a problem with you. And you know in a Philly bar, that's really all you need to say to get two people to fight, you know?
In a Philly bar. And so, Sonia, we're here now. In this space where misinformation not only affects our information around politics, human nature, but it's also impacting how we pay our student loans, how we handle organizations and agencies that are supposed to be working on behalf of the people. How do we sort through all of this to get to the truth when we have so many believing the lie?
Yeah, I really agree with him in terms of staying focused. You know, I don't like to pay attention to anything that doesn't pay me money. And so the funny thing is, a lot of times when you're trying to move to a greater cause or something big is going to happen that can really unite us, the first thing that this country is historic for doing is bringing up race. And while racial issues still happen, I don't know if you guys noticed this, particularly when we were going into the first Trump election. There was a lot of videos showing people being hurt or being harassed by police. And then like those videos stopped. They went away. Not that the problem went away, but the public attention went on to it and then it went away. And so what I tell people to be reminded of is that you are controlled and manipulated by what you see and hear. There are people at a table that sit around and discuss you and how to get to you on your phone, on your TV. And so literally, if you're not careful or you're not alert enough to turn the channel, to not be affected by what you see, or somebody could see that poster and then go outside and be mad at a white person the next day, you know, and that's the type of hatred and racism they want to see occur. Yeah. But what I think is so important, guys, and don't miss this point here, this election showed you, even if it was 71 or 75, we'll deal with the other 71 later, but we're going to go to 75. The majority of people in this country are good people and want to be united. They don't want to be at odds. Nobody wants to hurt each other. People want to be kind to each other. Yeah. I live right here in East Falls near Chestnut Hill. We had white and black people the day, I don't even know what was going on social distancing. I'm not going to lie. And banging pans and pots and hugging each other. And that was the essence of what America really is, united. And we saw it with the Obama administration. So I'm excited personally to see that resurge. Yes, racism did show its ugly head, but I feel like that's how he needed and what he needed to do to get elected at that time. Once we all caught on, I don't know how many people felt this way, but I was like, this fool done pulled racism out his head at the highest form on every platform to get elected, but people weren't going for that a second time around. And so I do want people to be kind to their neighbor, be kind to the person that doesn't look like you. Yeah. I push myself even more to speak to people that don't look like me on purpose, because we have to dispel the narrative, and we have all gone through on either party 4 years of trauma. White people that are not bad people felt like they had to speak up and say, I'm not racist. Black people felt like they had to assert themselves and say, I won't be treated this way. And so we've all been through different type of trauma these last 4 years. And to be quite honest with you, I think we're all looking for some relief and be able to go, like, I didn't hate you either. So right. Yeah. So I'm just telling everyone to stay focused. Don't be knocked off your horse.
Dave, to Sonia's point, you know, the world seems to be waiting for a waiting to exhale moment, you know. But Sonia touched on a very critical point that I think, Dave, this is kind of like right up your alley in terms of show production, because we've fallen into a very reality show based world. We want to see into people's lives. Even the timeline, you know, I watched the timeline and there's people eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on live. Why? I don't want to see you eat a sandwich, right? You know, I'm walking down the street with nothing to say, yet I'm live. And these things get thousands of views, yet educational videos, news videos with content are very unlikely to get the same level of views. And so it seems like reality has taken over our world in terms of a manufactured kind of show. Trump started and really gained some fame for many in a reality world. Do you feel like this presidency had a reality world concept in it?
Yeah, but I honestly think that was just them adapting to the times. To be totally honest with you, I think, and we're going to see a lot more of that for the future. For us, it'll be despicable because we remember a time when the election wasn't ran that way.
Yeah.
Now you have people who are growing up that will eventually work in cabinets that have only seen elections run this way.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I believe I wasn't around for a time where elections were ran without smear campaigns, but I've only known it to be that way. So I don't see anything wrong with that behavior. You know what I mean? But I remember my grandparents and them, they used to be like, why do they pay money to smear each other like this in the ads? Like me, I think that's standard. That's normal. So that's the new norm. They just adapted to the times.
Wow. Sonia, adapting to the times. And to Dave's point, just like there are many that have not seen an election run without a smear tactic. Even in cases where opponents have gotten together, even in this recent cycle, to join hands and come together in announcements, things of that nature, because they understood the impact of what was going on. We even have young folk who really don't know and understand the move bombing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, who will now go on to be leaders in the city of Philadelphia, which is where we're broadcasting from. How do we begin to ensure that we understand the impact of history and then also acknowledge the changing times without allowing it to become a runaway car or a runaway horse in this case?
Was that to both of us or was that directed to Sonia?
Well, I'll start with Sonia and then I'll swing it right back to you.
Well, I think it is important to not, because we are in a very day-to-day reality series phase of our lives. That's a great way to put it. I think it is important that history, and not, I know people get mad when I say this, but we really need to, this generation, I feel like, can rewrite history as it should be. I don't know if you recall your textbooks, like social studies. Remember that class? And I felt like everything that was in that textbook was not correct.
Absolutely.
And so being more conscious and being more aware of what really did occur, I felt like I had to brainwash myself to what really is the truth versus what we were taught. So we need more speakers. We do need more people in the entertainment industry. We need more authors to rewrite how history should have been stated from the very beginning. And then, guys, the last thing is, if you have children and you're watching this, you don't want to leave it to the education system to teach your child what they should know. I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of parents fall short of, is that, well, what did they teach you in school today? No, what did you teach your child today? So maybe we're doing 365 days of Black history or history as it should have been told for American history. So I do think we have to have a little more ownership, because we can really see how crafty and creative the media is, and even those that create the textbooks are, that this is not our true story or our narrative. And so are you going to wait until somebody teaches you? I mean, not to be funny, but maybe you do want to have that child that say, I didn't learn that at home, respectfully, and then open up dialogue.
So Dave, history will always be written by those who have the power of the pen, not by those who read the book.
Correct.
We change that.
I think that we have to figure out a way to instill a different level of honesty in human beings, where more people are okay with telling the story, but not leaving out the negativity. The problem is a lot of us are scared to ever admit what we did. So we put on these facades to be good people, so we hide so much negativity under the rug. You can show me the nicest person in the world, the biggest, most religious person, there are still negative, deviant thoughts in their mind. And sometimes those thoughts act out, and people deal with that all the time. And we have to get past that shame. We have to understand we all have that in us. And because we all have that in us, it's okay to share the negative. Now, there's no reason to hide anything. There's no reason to hide history. There's no reason to hide what happened over here, or what happened. Because when you start hiding that kind of stuff, that's when people don't understand why people are the way that they are. Well, this happened over here and we did that, and it caused a lot of trauma, and those people are different now. So, but we didn't tell. If for us to explain that, we would have to tell you what we did that made them that way. versus just trying to paint them as terrible people. You know what I mean? And that happens globally, country by country. You see that in households. You see family members that ain't gonna make it back to Thanksgiving. Why not? They be tripping. You're not gonna tell the whole story on what you did and why they're not coming over here no more. We just don't mess with that part of the family no more. So we have to get to some sort of level in humanity where we're honest with ourselves so that we can be honest with the rest of the world.
You know, it's interesting. So, Sonia, you talked about what, and it's hard to really. I'm trying to give it the context in which I felt your comments. It almost felt like you talked about a reprogramming that needs to occur. Sonia Sessoms on our comment feed, she says, "Look, what are we teaching? What are we teaching our children, right? Because what we're teaching them will matter. It's not just enough now to talk about paying down the debt of education. That's easy. And it's not so much easy, but that's an easier topic. It's a more sexier topic. The bigger conversation, which we seem to continuously have, is what are we teaching our children? And now we're paying for the miseducation of not just the Lauryn Hills of our world, but the education of us all. So, Sonia, as we begin this battle in this new administration around equity and education funding and opportunity, how do we also add topic discussion, making sure that the right curriculums are in place at our universities so that our children come out with not just an equitable education, but one that is truly reflective of the context and activities that really truly occurred in history?
Well, I think it's going to be really, really important for those like myself, those like you, Malik, Dave, that have a voice already with their personal community. And social media is actually real life. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm about to say, but at one point it was like social media and then the real world, right?
Yes.
The social media is now the real world. And what I'm finding is
real life is shut down.
Right. Is that when I get scheduled for major TV shows or universities or colleges, it's because the person that's watching me on social media controls what they want to see happen at their university or happen at their schools. And so what I want to remind people that have influence is that your message will always, and that is now the wave, going to go beyond just this platform. It's going to go beyond YouTube. It's going to go beyond Instagram. And so you have to be able to position yourself with your message and your context. I don't like to see people just go online and talk, but maybe you do need to create the ebook or the book. Maybe you do need to create the curriculum or the course, because it's going to be people like ourselves that have an opinion that people care to listen to, create the next thing, or hire somebody to help them create the next thing that's going to help change the mindset, the narrative. So I'm really, really appreciative. I don't know if you follow somebody on Instagram, Derek Grace too. He's quite radical, but what I love about him is that he literally takes his knowledge that he teaches from Instagram and he turned it into a board game like Monopoly. Before you can even get out of jail or go, you know how you just go and play Monopoly?
Right.
You got to learn some key terms to survive in these economic times. So this is all applying to real life. And I say, he's awesome because people that respect him on social media now have a tangible product in their home that they can play with their family, learn terms and things they would have never learned. Because no one ever gave you a class or a boot camp class on how to survive life, how to manage your finances. Did you ever take that class? No. How to work with others that didn't look like you, how to survive outside of your community.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I just found out from a Jewish friend of mine that most of their households, they had 3 jars of money. And that's how they were taught to manage. This is for spending. This is for saving. This is for investing. And they were learning that at like 2 or 3, collecting coins and a change, and that they understood the flow of it. It was already a habit to them by the time they even made it.
Spend. And so I have a book by Rabbi Lapin, who's Jewish, who talks about the concept of what to do with money, even just as simple as using the water and overflowing in a cup to represent the overflow of money and wealth that will be brought into this home. There are rituals and practices that the Jewish community, for example, have been doing that we're not tapped into. We could be doing it with our kids. Literally, I just bought my goddaughter 3 piggy banks. Give, save, spend. Now, if I'm giving you a $5 bill, how much should go to each?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to put something in my savings.
Absolutely.
And so just reprogramming our children with things like that. It doesn't take to have a lot of money to explain how to manage a lot of money. And, you know, I'm very fundamentally at my core, I just, with my faith, believe we got to stop asking for God to give us more money and we can't handle $100. Stop asking for 6 figures. Hello, somebody. So now we got to realize there's things that we can't bring in or attract or can't be given to us if we can't handle what we already have. So ownership comes into it as well.
And like a child, you're going to delay that gift, right? If you you got a daughter, right, Malik? Remember when she used to ask for a pony?
Yeah.
You know, you knew she couldn't handle a pony, so you never gave it to her.
No, not even a dog, because I knew I was going to be the one walking it, right? Like that's how it goes. But so I'm going to ask you guys a question that we don't typically ask at all, but I think it's really important. What do you want to see from Heart City in 2021? I mean, we do a lot of programming. We are very adamant on bringing out message and education. But if there were tools that you want to see from Black media outlets or segments that you want to see from Black media outlets, what topics would they focus on? And what position points should we have in this new year?
Well, I would say this. I think your show does a really, really great job with bringing people like ourselves onto the platform to really share what they're doing at a local level or a topic-based level. I think you're awesome in that regard. I do think it would be more amazing to even have more people talk with you live and direct. I think viewership and hearing their actual voice.
Yeah.
I don't know how to integrate that, but I think that would be awesome to hear what people want to talk about or what they're thinking. Because I realized something recently. You know, I teach on IG Live a lot, similar to this platform, where I can respond to, you know, written word. Yeah. But when we're in Zoom and I take you off mute and I hear what you're saying, I'm able to hear how somebody processes what I actually gave them. And I think we miss that piece when we use certain platforms that don't allow people to talk, because you got 50% of what I said, but the other 50% was lost. So let me clarify. So I think that we got to go back to that old school. Do we have some callers? Do we have some, you know, and let people verbalize what it is that they're feeling, they're hearing, because that for me really creates an equal understanding of the topics that you present, which are really amazing.
So that's really interesting. So one of the things that when we transition from radio to the Now Network, which is a TV platform, it's great to expand your viewership. It's great to expand, especially to simulcast on a YouTube. But to your point, Sonia, making sure that the audience understands the information, not just hearing the information, is absolutely crucial. Which is one of the reasons why pastors ask you to repeat something on Sunday. It's not just because they're trying to find the next sentence or the next way in, but they also want to hear information. That's great points. Dave, what can we do in 2021 to readjust, change, and bring more impact?
Well, I'm a comic, so I always, poke fun at the old way of thinking. I poke holes in the way of thinking and just try to show the young people there is some holes in that logic so that they can break through on their own at some point. One of the biggest things that I'm pushing for, and I hope you do also, I'm talking to the other side a lot. So I do a show on Instagram Live Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's called Unpopular Opinions. And we do it like the way you suggested, Sonia, where I go live, but I also open my live up to anybody that wants to come in and give their unpopular opinion. Yeah. The theme of the show is just because you're offended does not mean you're right. You just haven't been exposed to that point of view. So I want to hear from everybody. Yeah. I want to hear from everybody. What is the thing that that you learned somewhere as a child that you don't talk about anymore because it's not a thing? And let's open up that thought. Where did that come from? Do you really mean that? Do you really believe that? And that's it. You know, we kind of poke holes in the logic of the bad programming of when people have and they share their unpopular opinions.
You know, that's interesting because in our Vision 2020 series for the election, we brought on both sides. So yes, it's great to have a Will.I.am or an Ambassador Carol Mosley Braun or the DNC chair, but then we had Paris Denard, who's on CNN, you know, as the senior engagement for Black men for Trump.
And we have to be okay with that. We have to support that. We cannot begin, you know, name calling or be getting our own because they entertain a conversation with someone that we be like, what? Are you even talking to them?
Listen,
like,
I've had my black card revoked about 34 times.
Yeah,
because I wanted to make sure that we heard both sides of the coin, and I think that's really important. And to Sonia's point, then getting also information from others into the space as well. Look, I got some homework to do. Sonia gave me something to work on. Dave gave us some points to fine tune as well. Give the broadcast audience your social media handles so that they can follow you, get engaged.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, particularly. That's where all the fun happens. Live. I go live almost every night. I'm going live tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Talk about what's happening with Joe Biden and forgiveness. But Instagram, the handle is The Student Loan Doctor. If anybody needs our professional services, I have an amazing team that helps people understand their student loan debt. Our website is drpleasehelpme.com. So I'm looking forward to engaging with everyone.
We're going to make sure that we post and promote it on our social media channels as well. Sonia, you are an absolute rock star. We love you, honor you, and appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Dave.
I'm Dave Temple across all social media platforms. Like Sonia said, where it really matters, people. That's the real life, all right? Outside, they shut it down. So if you want to get with me, it's never going to happen in person. It's got to be. DaveTempleComedy.com is the website. There's plenty of media up there. Poke around, enjoy yourself. And Tuesdays and Thursdays on IG Live, Unpopular Opinions, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Dave, you too are a rock star, brother, man. We love you, honor, and appreciate you for the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So we have heard from Sonia and Dave, who have broken down some amazing gifts in the space, not just around education and the knowledge that needs to happen, but also where we need to be in terms of mindset. How do we approach education? Not just knocking off the bills, but what topics should be there, understanding the reality world, where it is, and how we need to handle that, because social media has become reality in many ways. This brother, Al Spivey, a legend in not just the Philadelphia area, but around the country. For those who have engaged him, whether it be in the civic space, whether it be in the legislative space, you know that he's one that gets the job done. So I brought him on early. Y'all know we typically go into our song of the week, and I'm going to do that, but I want to introduce him to you before we even go in this space. Al, the world is changing, or at least settling down now that we've had an election. We still have more work to do, clearly, but you are in front, part of one of the leaders, thought leaders, legislative advisors, senior advisors who are leading the efforts to ensure that we have some balance and semblance. First and foremost, welcome back home to Heart City, brother. It is great to have you on the dial.
Malik, I am humbled by this opportunity, and you keep on having your black card snatched, because I got a couple duplicates that I can give.
I appreciate you. I know you're a problem solver.
I want to say that when we start talking about silencing opinions, that is not democracy. That is not black. It is not what we're about, and it's not growth. And at this point, there's a lot of things happening. You know, there's an old saying: there's three groups of people: those who watch things happen, those who things happen to, and then the people who make shit happen.
You're good. Okay. FCC won't catch us here.
Okay. So you know, we choose to be in the group that makes things happen, and with that comes a huge responsibility around informing people around opinions that aren't our own, that are different than our own, but intellectually going through the exercise of weighing all of the information. That is a mature, and I'm listening to your financial segment, and I was in the I guess the whole room.
Yeah.
And I'm loving this sister talking about piggy banks, and I'm loving the brother who's the comedian who actually is a thought leader himself.
Yes, indeed.
And so what I want to say right now is, it might not seem like it, but the future is bright.
Yeah.
It might not feel like it with COVID and a lot of discourse that's going on, but before there is ever the dawn, it's darkest before the dawn.
Absolutely.
So that's where we are right now. But I'm just telling you, I like waiting for the sunrise, because I'm telling you that there's been some changes, some of which we'll talk about today, some trends that are not necessarily good, but we have enough time to weigh in to make sure that they come out like we need them to come out.
So let's dig into this, because many know that I have done extensive work on both sides of the aisle, have been president of the Philadelphia Young Democrats, and then served as president of the Republican Voter League. And many could not figure out, that's confusing to me. And I respect those opinions, but understanding that the chessboard is white and black pieces.
Yes.
And in some cases, you're going to have to move, especially for African Americans, you have to move on both sides of the aisle in order to get the work done. And there are seasons by which we have to move. You know this well. I've learned much of that from our conversations, Al. And so, many were surprised. Well, wait a minute. I thought he was over here, and then Biden is in Delaware speaking, and he's standing right there with members of the DNC. I'm confused. You and I used to always talk about this, Al. We have to win at all times, not just some of the time. Absolutely. And so as our senior leader, Al, talk to the broadcast audience about the importance of Black folk being at every table, not just one.
Well, understand this. So I'll give you this personally. I'll say that right now there's two groups of people that love me and people that don't love me.
Yeah.
And what I will say is that it wasn't until I learned that I needed to have people that knew me at every table that exists, that I interact with, so that I could get the intel back of the group that wasn't necessarily favorable to me. And sometimes in this, I'm just using this particular instance, it was BS as to why they weren't feeling me. And so because I had someone embedded in that structure, I had the benefit of understanding what I needed to do, how I needed to move. Now, if you extrapolate that out to where we are today, let's look at what happened. 76 million people voted for Biden. 72 million voted for Trump. And their views on a lot of different things are very, very different. And there's a pandemic. There's a president that's in charge while the pandemic happened. There was a briefing book that was made available by the previous administration to detail how to handle a pandemic. The incoming administration chose not to look at that. The incoming administration chose to use dog whistles on issues that they have for their constituency. They didn't try to necessarily grow their constituency. They tried to maintain their constituency, hoping that the opposite group would not be motivated. They failed.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to the point, had 45 won and we didn't have anybody on that side to at least be in the room to have a conversation around, listen, you might want to moderate your position on this. You might want to go over here. You might want to talk to this person. That would have been hustling backwards.
Yeah.
And as much as I disagree with a lot of 45's principles and what he stands for, I can intellectually understand why we should have had somebody over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And business for Black folk has to get done. I mean, $370 million for opportunity zones. We were able to put folk at the table. That's important because those dollars are not a president's dollars. Those are our federal dollars. And we need to make them work. And that's something that you've done very well, navigating not just the city but the state as well, and how that plays a role in the federal space. One of the things that I think is so important, and you brought this up, the nation is split. 72 million went with President Trump, and they're standing with him now. And I want people to understand this perspective. Even some of the dog whistling that's occurring right now that you mentioned around the election, that's not because they actually believe they won the election. That's really to ensure that the base, that 72 million, holds with him and feels like something was taken from them. So now we have a basis by which to build, because essentially Trump just took over the Republican Party. It is now the party of Trump.
So you know, I am a student of the game.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been on numerous calls with my fraternity brothers, with a lot of people, and they can't understand why 45 does what he does. Let's look at it. If you have a post-presidential future, and you got 72 million people who could potentially be 72 million subscribers to a yet unnamed network that you plan on creating,
right,
you'll rival pretty much any of the talking heads. And imagine this: every time Biden does something, you have a platform by which you can attack or support what Biden has done.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, if you understand how our system works, if you don't tell your own story, someone tells your story for you. So intellectually, I understand why 45 moved like he moved. It makes sense to me. I don't necessarily agree with it, but you can't argue with 72 million voters.
You cannot.
You cannot. In fact, let me just say this: 72 million voters in normal presidential elections, he's doing like this with his hand on the Bible.
Absolutely.
And understand this: this is the most, in modern times, participation in a presidential election in the history of our country. And that I'm proud of, because historically, 70%, maybe 60% of the electorate would participate. We're at 78%.
Right.
And participation is what makes democracy actually run. And if you be honest about our system, it will prevail. January 20th, there's going to be a peaceful transference of power. Biden gets sworn in. We still got some work to do in Georgia that I need to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
Because there are things that are at stake that are related to 20 years down the road that are relevant right now, and we have to be diligent about what those issues are.
So let's touch on Philly and then slide our way down to Atlanta, probably figuratively and literally, because I have some opportunity to make a difference, and I know you do as well. And I think it's really important, especially when we're talking about Ossoff and Warnock, what is able to happen there, because if you do not have control of the Senate, much of what the Biden-Harris administration will push will be blocked by McConnell.
It will be Obama light.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, what people need to realize is Trump nominated three Supreme Court. Well, that could possibly happen for Biden. There could be two.
Right.
Supreme Court justices that he needs to be able to get through.
Yeah.
This is a time in our history where it's very serious. There's an agenda that President-elect Biden has around infrastructure, inclusion, that sound really good.
Right.
It's clear in terms of who supported him. I want to see that bill that he owes does not go uncollected.
Absolutely.
That is tragic.
Yeah. You're spot on. And we have to get out of the concept of emotional politics. I no longer want the tickle my fancy politics. I want actual impact because it's really crucial. Brookings Institute, and I drive this home just about every show, 2040, suggesting that $5.46 will be the African-American median income if we don't reverse the course of wealth building. We have 56% of Black businesses that will not return because of what had just occurred with Forbes. So we've got some issues that we have to contend with. Let's talk about Philly. You know this well, and we got a chance to see, voters come out unlike any other campaign and presidential election before. Philadelphia Inquirer reports Philly was supposed to turn out huge for Biden. It didn't. What happened? And so, Al, when we talk about this space, understanding that, yes, Black folk did show up, and we need to understand that. We need to pay attention to it. What Senator Kamala Harris and what Vice President-elect Senator Kamala Harris said, and what President-elect Joe Biden said was absolutely true. African Americans stepped up. We do what we do.
Yes.
However, Philly suburbs saw a tremendous amount of Republicans turn their back on Trump. And the surrounding counties, what we call our huggable counties for Philadelphia, they said, look, I don't like the way he handled COVID. Business may have been cool, but COVID really did us in. And so now as these numbers are starting to settle, we're recognizing that really the bump for him was a loss of reduction of votes from the Republican circle that said, I'm willing to cross over and come to the Democratic side. Because when we take the swell down, we see almost kind of like similar patterns. When we take the anomaly out, there's similar patterns. And so, Al, how do we deal with the fact that we didn't necessarily knock out the giant? Nonetheless, we need to celebrate at the feast of the table.
Right, so let me clarify a couple things.
Sure.
So, Erie, Allegheny County, Scranton area overperformed.
Absolutely.
Which allowed for some of the slippage in Philadelphia to be okay.
Yep.
So ultimately, we won by about 55,000, 60,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
We netted 430,000 out of Philadelphia, which is a robust turnout.
Absolutely.
There were some inklings around the Latino community not being lockstep, because I saw an article in the Inquirer where they said, listen, there's not been any substantive outreach to us.
Yeah.
There's a language barriers. There's stuff that they really have an issue with. What is it called? Socialism. That's a big deal in the Latino community, and it wasn't addressed. So there were key words that went
Trump's way as a result.
We did not have a unified historical Latino turnout that would have taken us over the top, and that would have been a difference. But here's something else that you need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There were some Black votes that went Trump's way because he netted more than he did in 2016.
Absolutely.
In Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying that this is an isolated phenomenon. I will say that we have work that we need to do.
Yeah.
And right now, governance is where we are. That, you know, while this opportunity exists, we should be prepared and be preparing for it, because there are issues like educational funding. There are issues like minority inclusion in contracts. There are issues across the board as it relates to where we are and what we have in front of us. Because no matter who is on Pennsylvania Avenue, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we still have to deal with the fact that Philadelphia historically has 28% of its population impoverished.
Yeah.
And that has to be dealt with.
You're spot on. I had a conversation last week with Ryan Boyer, and we talked about poverty and its impact on our city and specifically our community. Much of the conversation at the legislative level and sometimes even at the federal level has been, we're going to get to you. We got it. We recognize it. But yet the ground does not see the Maynard Jackson style impact.
Well, so let's look at this. There is no black messiah. Okay,
there you go.
Understand there's no black messiah.
Yep.
In fact, the messiahs are on the screen right now. You're a messiah, I'm a messiah, and whoever is trying to do this work that is of sound mind, that has the ability to ask questions and question authority and hold people accountable, we become the messiahs. It's not going to be a Maynard Jackson. What happens is people need to pay attention to the budget and city council. Yeah, there's a movement to defund the police. That is a negative perspective. That is a perspective that I want to take something from somebody. Now, I'm not against anybody exercising their franchise, but I want to talk about, well, city council, we want X amount of minority businesses. We want a pre-apprenticeship programs around the union question. We want our educational system funded at the level that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We want SHOP returned to the school district, because everybody's not going to get a college education. In fact, the last time I checked, a plumber can make $75,000 easy without overtime.
Hey, listen, truth be told, you just made a comment about SHOP. I remember wood shop and what we were able to do back then, even with home economics, being able to prepare and prep for a life in culinary.
So in terms of this Messiah notion, I want us to create pathways to success.
There you go.
I want us to be so here's another thing. These right here, these are game changers. And guess what? Every kid in Philadelphia that's at least 16 knows how to use it. They download music, they edit music, they have their own playlist, they text message, they have their own language. You can't tell me that we can't do something with this, that because this didn't exist when I was coming up.
That's true. Same for me.
But it exists now. And the thing that makes this run is coding.
Yeah.
The software is one thing, but someone has to write the software. So, it doesn't take a 4-year degree to code. It doesn't.
No. And those are critical opportunities that African Americans need to be exposed to.
Yes.
And Black America needs to capitalize on. I'm going to go to a break. We're going to pay some bills, but I want to bring you back on the other side. And then we're also going to bring in Doug Reed from Black Men Heal. And I think this is really important because even as we hosted conversations with Mike Blake, the DNC vice chair, we brought brothers like Doug and others to the room because Black men need to have a conversation and be really truly focused on progress at not just the ground level, but also in the boardroom and definitely in presidential cabinet. We needed to be a priority and needed to ensure priority. I think brothers like Doug and brothers like you help to do that. And so I'm going to a break. On the other side, the legendary Al Spivey, and
No, just
my brother.
Humbly submit. I'm just Al Spivey Jr. I'm okay with that.
And that's exactly how legends do, broadcast audience. We're going to a break. I'll see you right on the other side.
Okay.
You're watching Heart City TV.
Okay.
You love me. You love me not. You love black culture, but do you love me? You love how I sound, my voice, these beats, this flow. Not me though, right? You love how I look, my hair, this skin, but me, nah. We don't get to exist. We're forced to survive. We still fight. We still play while the world burns, on fields that ain't even level. All men are created equal? That's my favorite part. You hate us so deeply, but you're still so impressed. Why can't you see? There's history in our skin. You built this country on our backs. I'm him, he's me, she, us, we are all black.
Power to live right. I got the power. Power to walk right. We got
Love me or not, we love each other deeply. We gon' be us. We gon' break bread. We gon' defy gravity. You love my culture, or do you love me? What a world that would be.
We're back. You're watching Heart City TV. That was a spot from Beats by Dre. I thought it was an absolutely amazing, thought-provoking piece, and I think that you should share it with those that you love. It's good to see that kind of conversation happening from companies at that level that also have creative directors and principals of color. Economics is going to be so important as we have this conversation of progress, because you're going to have to fund progress, and you need to do it by wealth creation in the community. Otherwise, those who have the purse strings get to pull those strings and make us dance, sometimes in ways that we truly do not desire to do so. These two brothers, you already heard from Al Spivey. He's sitting in the center of the screen because that's what quarterbacks do. You know, we serve on the wings, Doug. We got to run our routes now. Quarterback has the ball. Brother Doug, it is so good to see you, man. Welcome back home to Heart City, brother.
Hey, thank you for inviting me, Malik. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate your show and what you do so much.
We appreciate you and the great work of Black Men Heal. Brother Al was breaking down what is occurring in the space around politics, what's happening in terms of these numbers. And I think it's really important that we begin to talk to folk who know the numbers, know the impact of the numbers, and can read through the lines. Because it's not just the vote count in total, but it's also the trends and the patterns that we see. We clearly know that there's work to be done, Al, because Philly did what it was supposed to do. PA has done what it was supposed to do. And we now have Pennsylvania going for who is now the president-elect, Joe Biden. However, we now got to deal with the brass tacks of this thing. How do we legislate progress, especially for communities of color, and make sure that a plan like Lift Every Voice and the policy writers who are including communities of color have enough votes to get this thing done? Warnock, Pastor Raphael Warnock is right down in Georgia. There is a thumping going on right out of Ebenezer Baptist Church, the church of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Pastor Raphael Warnock is the senior pastor there, and all hands are on deck. I mean, numbers ungodly from both sides of the aisle, trying to ensure that race turns their way. From your vantage point, what's happening in Atlanta and those Georgia Senate races? And where do we need to be to support progress?
Is that for me?
That's for you, Al.
Okay. All right. So the brother that's on, I admire your work, and I wanted to tell you in person, as a black man, we need to lift each other up very publicly. And I admire the work you do. So I want to tell you that right now.
Thank you.
So right now, here's the dynamic. It is 50 Republican senators that are elected. There are currently 48 Democratic senators that are elected. There are 2 runoffs in Georgia. And what I will say is this: the significance of that is that if we should net those 2 seats in Georgia, that would create a tie in the Senate. And according to our Constitution, the vice president then sits as the president of the Senate and is the tiebreaker. The reason why that is super important, and this is a time in our history where the ancestors will rise up and have something to say. They will rise up and have something to say about this. John Lewis, this happened in John Lewis' backyard. What do you think John Lewis would do if he was alive right now? He would be all over the country bringing millions of dollars back to Georgia to make sure that they had enough ammo to fight. So historically, in Georgia, this is historically, Democrats in runoff situations don't do well.
Mm-hmm.
But I got 2 words for that. Stacey Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Stacey Abrams. Sister girl, when she ran for governor, the guy who was the then sitting Secretary of State, which regulates elections, was her opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of him absolving himself because he's running, he weighed in and disenfranchised a lot of voters that she was able to get to come and participate.
Mm-hmm.
God would have it that the very person that was mishandled handled them.
Yeah.
What she did was she created a nonprofit to deal with voter disenfranchisement. She did not take her bat and ball and go home. She stayed on the game grid. She fought the good fight. She convinced the Democratic, the DNC, that Georgia should be in play. And here's why. Here's the trends. Here's the stats. Here's how much money we raised. And it also helped that Michael Bloomberg sent a little nourishment down there to stop me.
Right.
But the point is that Stacey Abrams said, lead, follow, or get out the way. And sis organized. Now, as an organizer, you do know that is she married or what? Because I need to talk.
Your organizing spirit.
What she did was extraordinary and commendable. But let me get back to the real point. We have to. Every black person in Philadelphia should send $2 down to Georgia. $2. We talking about a Lucy, okay? A Lucy, you know what that is, right?
Boy, you went right to the block with that one. Now. No, you're right.
Lucy, right?
Yeah.
$2. Send $2 to her PAC. Because if we can't physically go down there, our dollars should be felt. And the bulk of Barack Obama's campaign donations was between $20 and $60.
Listen, he was the small ball king. He raised $600 million on $5 donations.
Well, he refused to take PAC money.
Absolutely.
And they thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to you that at this point, this is our time in history where the hands that pick cotton in the deep South in Georgia is getting ready to pick a Senate which will enable Kamala Harris to be able to govern. Now, it could go either way. She could be a political afterthought as being the number 2 person in a one-term president,
Right.
Or she could be president of the Senate, getting Biden's agenda through, which will then get Biden a second term,
Right.
which will help, hopefully, the guy who said the night he was elected, I owe black people a debt of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
How about 55% of white women voted for Trump?
Oh yeah.
So it's clear if you look at Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
look at Milwaukee, look at Philadelphia, Atlanta, Newark, New Jersey. These places are where black people and brown people live.
Well, let's dig into that. I mean, black and brown people have, I mean, Doug, you know this well, have been called the firemen of politics and firewomen of politics. We're constantly brought in to handle the 7 alarm blaze.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. And many times we were never there to start it. Right. But you want us to come get it done before the building collapses, and then we want you to rebuild the building too. But then I got to check to see if you have a pass to come in the building once it's done and we got new security up. There's one trend that Al talked about that I think is so important. We have to have a conversation with black men. Black men in 2016 were 13% for Trump. Nationally, now in upwards of 18%. They're projected when it's all said and done, it might even climb towards 23, 24%. That's a big conversation that the DNC needs to have. Because yes, a seat at the table, we want to make sure that our wonderful, wonderful sisters are covered, taken care of, placed in positions that they rightfully deserve. However, we don't want to exclude black men who are dealing with the brunt of their lives impacted by police reform, their lives impacted, through the current racism of the system. We get 2 and 3 degrees and still can't get to the corner office or still can't make an impact. To Al's point, trades, making sure that we can get in the unions and have equitable presence in the unions. All those things exist. You deal with these brothers daily. Yeah. What's the feeling on the ground? And what do we need to do to mobilize them so that a Warnock race means progress to them, not just participation?
Well, Malik, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's a thing where black men need to understand that, they can do it, first of all, but understand all the trauma and all the past that they have, that those things got to be, they have to let those things go in order to move forward. I mean, what Black Men Heal actually does. I mean, we talk about healed men. I mean, and we know once we heal our families, once we heal the communities, once we heal the nation, now we heal in the world. I mean, that's where that comes in. And then for them to actually understand that they're not alone, and Black Men Heal, I mean, I got to give a shout out to Black Men Heal. I mean, it's, we remove the stigma about getting mental health. They actually establish you with a therapist of color, and, they do it for free. And that's where we got to get up. We're carrying so much on our shoulders, like, the foundation of the building. There's so much on the shoulders, but the building is a skyscraper, and only thing that everybody sees is a skyscraper. But we carry that foundation of that building. But we got to realize that we're stronger in numbers, and just like you just said, I mean, the fact that our black women are doing this, they're actually, and a shout out to Tasman Sullivan and Zakiya Williams, who actually are the founders of Black Men Heal, and other sisters are doing it, and we're stepping up. Now our women are behind this. We know when there's a good woman, I mean, there's a good helper, and a man that finds a good wife finds a good thing. We already know that. So we're understanding now our role and our purpose and our responsibility. Even this platform, we're talking about the politics, the education, and using the World Wide Web every day, Instagram, all those different things that can actually educate us. But we just got to watch the distractions.
Let me ask you, Doug, are black men ready to have the conversations that Al and others have in the boardroom about moving our people forward?
You know what I say, Malik? Let's go. Yes, I think they're ready. I mean, I think they're ready, and we're not taking the land down anymore.
Yeah.
We're not. Everything's been brought to the forefront. You got brothers out there. You know, let's remove the stigma about us not being the fathers in our community. That the only thing we do is go to jail. I mean, I worked in a prison for 25 years. Those brothers that was in jail 25 years ago when I started are out now making a difference in their communities.
Yeah. Al, the returning citizens population, Black men, that gap from that 13 to 23% that is projected. We need to have real conversations with them. What should that conversation be, Al?
Well, so understand this, right? A lot of good people do bad things, and sometimes brothers get caught up in a situation, and they wind up in the system, and forever their life is different. What I would say is this: that we have to have credibility with them, and there has to be pathways to success, because when you're in gladiator school, it's difficult. It is a macho environment. You can't be touchy-feely or you will not survive. And then to transition out of that to this, where you have to use emotional intelligence, you have to be slow to take offense and quick for reconciliation.
Right.
That's a major code switch. So what I would say is this, that each of us should adopt a brother that's returning, because guess what? There are 6,000 that return every year, no matter what. There are 6,000 brothers that were in the institution that return every year, and each one of us should adopt one of them, because there are things that come up that, you know, hey Malik, if I had a couple dollars and I needed some money, I would not call you,
right? And
I know if I called you, you would give it to me,
right?
And it's almost like there's this machoism, where we don't want to disclose our weaknesses to other brothers and share our inadequacies to other brothers, when in fact often help is around the corner. Someone can tell you where to go to get help. And guess what? What intelligence really is, it's not necessarily innate. It's having the ability to figure out where to get things. And I will tell you this, there's some brothers in our community that have been institutionalized that are geniuses.
Oh, without question. Without question.
That figure out how to move men, how to motivate things, how to do product packaging, how to do distribution, how to do collections, how to do accounts receivable.
So it's interesting that while the narrative is Raphael Warnock being on the shoulders of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King at Ebenezer, Stacey Abrams is sitting on top of the machine and making sure that folk around the state understand what's at stake. It seems like this Georgia race is going to be an opportunity for us to have the conversation around the gender within our community and unifying us in a major way to ensure that there's some real progress. Doug, do you get that sense when you look at the Georgia race and what's possible?
Yeah, you know what, I do, and I've never been so involved in the I'll say politics the way it's going with the media, and I watch both Fox and CNN.
Okay,
and I get the sense that somebody's scared right now. They're scared that Georgia is going to do their thing. As we all know, that people are going to step up. Even just like we said, we're going to start sending money down to Georgia. Whether it's $2, $5, 5,000, whatever it takes to make a difference in that community, because we see the light. I mean, I think we're at a point right now, especially, we talking about the baby boomers, we talking about Generation X, we talking about the millennials. Now we got this new generation, which is they call Gen Z. Those young folks are coming through real tough right now. They're making a difference. They're the ones that's out there in those streets. So I think nothing changes just going forward. I think those same individuals or those young people, that Gen Z, along with all the others, are going to be out there in the streets and making a difference to get those votes.
And to Al's point, that technology opportunity, being able to triangulate through cell phones and other smart technology is going to be absolutely crucial. I want to pull up something really quickly, Al, because I know your expertise will kind of bring this to light, because this is a very important part of the dialogue of the Biden-Harris administration that needs to occur. All right, so this is so important. Brookings Institute, Biden voting counties equals 70% of America's economy. What does this mean for the nation's political and economic divide? Al, that's a huge topic. I mean, we would need hours to break it down.
So,
At first glance, what's your thoughts?
Wow. If that is in fact true, the genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah.
There was a sleeping giant, and now we know what it is.
Yeah.
And so one of the most troubling thing I would say about our people is we don't know who we really are. We don't sometimes know that Egypt is in Africa. We don't know that Pythagoras and all that was African and that was the father of medicine. And we don't know the first craftsmen were people of color. Yeah. That the engineering feats at the towers of Giza were mathematically figured out by Black people. We are the inventors of math, but yet our math scores right now are below other ethnicities. Asians right now perform the highest rate in mathematics. So I am shocked by that revelation. It is sobering, but there's a responsibility that goes with that.
Yeah, very much so.
Now that that is out there, there's a responsibility that goes with that to the Biden administration and to us. Like this last election cannot be a one pony show.
No.
Trick pony show. It means that henceforth we have a duty and responsibility that every election that comes up in the foreseeable future is participation fully, because it's real clear to me that people are getting the notion that voting is not a burden, that there is some real things that can occur. And again, we have to hold those individuals that benefit from our harvest, that we deserve opportunity. And here's the thing, let me just be clear about this. We're not asking for handouts. We're asking for opportunity. The ability to participate. Not all of the slots are taken and you got to come back tomorrow. We're asking for some of the slots to be segregated for us so that we can take care of our communities. I know for a fact that Philadelphia is not going to stay at the 28% impoverished level. I know for a fact that this educational question is going to get solved because the alternative is failure. The alternative is clearly failure. I know for a fact that the 6,000 brothers that return, some of them are going to get it. And they are going to participate fully, and their experience in terms of being incarcerated will be a bump in the road. It will be a memory that is long ago.
Now you just pulled in something that I think is really crucial. I'm going to tell you how much I pay attention. I'm going to show you how much I pay attention to Doug. Al's our Yoda. He shows us the force. You know what I mean? I learned by watching him. You know. So February 2016, I made a post on Facebook and I said, "This guy Trump is going to be president." That was my 33rd black card that I lost at that point when I posted that. Right. November, he was elected.
Right.
We're now in a space where I'm making yet another prediction. that we really only have about 2 years to get an agenda across inside of this new administration. If we don't, 2024 will see the resurgence of that 72 million of Trump's team. He's already suppressed a potential candidate. He said, look, I may run in 2024.
Right.
People thought, well, can he be that, egotistical? That really wasn't an ego move. That was to suppress any other potential candidates and let them know, I need to keep these 70 next to me.
That's right.
Because I'm going to make a choice on who the candidate is going to be, right? So we already know 2024 is going to be major. If by chance we do not have a second Biden presidency or second term, we now have to contend with how do we ensure that the continuation of the work being done occurs. That's a very real reality when you elect a 77-year-old man, albeit fit in all of those things. These are all things that the DNC and Democrats have to contend with. The big portion of that is how they make sure, to Al's point, and here's where you'll know that I'm finally paying attention, Al. Al made a post months ago and said, don't fret, the harvest is upon us. That went over many people's heads. He just used the term again, the harvest is here. But Doug, it doesn't matter if the harvest season is upon you if you don't know how to reap the harvest, if you don't know how to collect it from the field.
Yeah.
What ways, because I see a great partnership even between you, Doug, and Al, how to work to ensure that Black men and the Black community reap the harvest. They're able to get out in the field and not work it for somebody else, but to bring that corn and bring whatever else is growing home. What are some of the steps that we need to take to begin that process right now? Because time is short.
Well, I mean, I think, Malik, even as you say that, the thing that comes to mind is for us having the ability to work together. Everybody has to understand their role. Everybody has to understand the lane with their talents, their skills and abilities. Like I bring to the table something much different than Al, something much different than you, but collectively, I think we can do it together. So it's just us understanding that lane and actually moving in accordance to, not trying to be spiritual, what God has given us. And that makes so much of a difference as and understanding we got to walk this thing out. And we got to hold each other accountable. I mean, you said it before. Al's been saying everybody's got to be held accountable, even as they've accepted these offices. But we got to do it in our communities first. We got to do it with our community leaders. We got to do it with our city officials. We got to do it with our state legislators. That's where it all starts at. So I think it's just the ability for all of us to work together. There's a lot of different voices going out, and we got to have voices that can come together and we can move as a unit.
Al is one of those individuals that can convene voices. You brought up a point, Doug, looking at state, looking at local. I say all the time, all politics are local, but all change begins locally. It's not enough to just talk about it. You've got to start it right there on the ground. Al is one that convenes those voices. Al, you heard Doug's clarion call. Look, it's about bringing voices to the room that the folk respect, that the folk trust and know that they're going to give them information that has integrity to it, but more importantly, a blueprint for us to navigate. You've been in many of those chambers of legislature and you understand this game. How do we bring these multifaceted portions of us together to be this collective juggernaut and unit?
So one of the things I want to touch base on, Joanna McClinton, State Rep Joanna McClinton, just became the minority leader of the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
She gonna need help, okay? Because that position has to raise money for other Democrats for them to take the House back. And there's a legislative agenda that we should, like, for instance, I'll give you a good one that we could work collectively. I don't know how you feel about cannabis, but there's a budget deficit in the state of Pennsylvania that the legislature, both Republicans and Democrats, are scared to death to raise taxes.
Absolutely.
So, me being a poor boy from West Philly, it's time to let this cannabis thing be taxed.
Absolutely.
And so,
but you also have to let it be banked properly. So you can't tax it without ensuring that folk aren't taking duffel bags out of their dispensaries.
Well, I mean, let's look. Let's not curse the darkness. Let's light a candle. Okay? for the purpose of this discussion, approach it like that. And what I'm gonna say is that we have to influence the legislature.
Yeah.
Like what we want. We might want a minority dispensary or minority distributor.
Right.
As part of the legislation.
Mm-hmm.
That X amount of money is going to be made from this, that some of the usury fees should go to community development organizations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that this revenue can take care of, including helping with some of the educational environment.
Mm-hmm.
I have 10% left on my
Hey, and we have 2 minutes left on the show.
Oh, okay.
We're good.
I'm over here sweat. It's going to drop. But in all seriousness, we have to become students of the game.
Yeah.
Each one of us has to read a little bit more. So also, in this, and I hate to say this, but thank God for COVID. And I'm gonna tell you why. Mm-hmm. I'm upset about the deaths. I'm upset
Absolutely.
About people being sick, but this is God speaking to us. Time to sit your asses down and spend time with your families.
Yeah.
Learn another skill that you didn't have.
Yeah.
Figure out how to be essential in anything that you do. See, each of us are so busy that we have so much to do.
Right.
And COVID came along and told us,
go back to basics.
Sit your
go back to the basics.
Yep.
Be with your family, interact with your people, and we're gonna put you on this.
Yeah.
You'll still be in touch with the world. You'll still be able to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I want us to be self-educate. I mean, I love what you do, Malik, in terms of you put out information. I don't always agree with you.
I understand.
But I have such a love for you that it's nourishment when you put it out there. Because guess what? If you put it out there and I think it ain't right, you go and get a text from me. That's just I mean, I'm not gonna land blast you on the radio.
No.
I'm gonna text you. So there was I know what it was. Pastor Lutz wanted to have service. I personally know Pastor Lutz, and I didn't have his number. So I reached out to you to get another number to get to him.
Yeah.
And he was being vilified, right? I didn't agree with his position, but he was being vilified. And so I got a chance to talk to him, and I shared some information that he didn't have, which made him rethink his position. I'm not responsible for him changing his mind.
Right.
But how that got handled was how we need to deal, because this is a man who's a leader of men and of our race, and he has value. And so let's not be so emotional when someone takes a position that's controversial that we don't check each other, and we don't check in with each other, and we don't have conversations with each other to help mitigate what could be different in a teaching moment.
One of the things that I really honor and appreciate about you, because even when we vary on viewpoints, whether I'm getting a call from you, or you're getting a call from me, the phone never disconnects.
No.
And nor does the relationship. No. And that's so crucial in this moment. That's some of the stuff in the great work that Doug and Black Men Heal are doing, is helping us to disagree yet still sharpen our iron.
Yes.
Because there's a collective enemy that we're going to have a bigger conversation with.
The biggest boycott of all time on minority businesses is minority people.
Come on, Doc. Come on. See, you just create.
That's another show.
A whole nother show.
All time.
Yeah.
Minority business.
Yeah, you're spot on. Listen,
what I said, there's a caveat to that.
Go ahead.
Minority businesses have to be ready to do business.
They got to be ready.
The customer friendly stuff.
Yeah.
The willingness to make the customer happy. The willingness to give more in product than they take in compensation. All of that has to be learned.
Mm-hmm. And be prepared to scale when the opportunity arises.
Yes, absolutely. So we got a lot of work to do, but I'm telling you, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a time in our history where there's going to be great accomplishments. The question is, are we going to seize the moment? Are we going to rise to the level of our greatness? Because there have been, if you look at Reconstruction, when we came out of slavery, what happened? Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yep.
Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. The people who built the country built their own community. It worked.
Right. Yeah. You're spot on.
The reason why it couldn't survive is because there was some other cultures that were suffering and were envious of what we were doing.
Oh, those individuals enjoyed our commerce, not our company.
Yeah.
And when we decided to take both back, some folk had some real issues.
Absolutely.
So, Al, I honor you.
I just wanted to say this one thing.
Go ahead.
So I'm taking privilege because I'm the oldest on the call.
See, Al comes in and takes over.
I'm sorry.
With 10% left on the call.
I want to say this is that out of all the things that I could be or would want to be, I am absolutely ecstatic about being a black man and under the circumstances by which I must deal, because I have learned how to be left-handed in a right-handed world. And now drop the mic.
Listen, that's one for the t-shirt, the book, the sermon selection, and everything. Doug, I'm gonna let you finish this, man. You have the next 60 seconds from your heart to the heart of the city. What do we need to know?
Just a matter of, big shout out once again to Black Men Heal. And it's actually, we got a new thing that we just started doing actually since COVID called King's Corner. You can register on King's Corner, www.blackmenheal.org. We talk about a variety of subjects. This is virtual free space. And just big shout out to you, Malik, because you'll be hosting it this Sunday. This is part 2 about politics. What do we do now? So thank you for inviting me to the show and for this platform. I really appreciate you, brother.
I'm excited about Black Men Heal, excited about King's Corner, because I think it's so important. And once we get rid of this COVID scenario, King's Corner to me is almost a boardroom level breakfast.
Yeah.
You guys like Al.
That's good.
To the table. We bring a Raphael Warnock. We bring folk to the table and let that dialogue happen over the field. And so I'm excited about the future of King's Corner and Black Men Heal. I am excited about my brother, the legend, Al Spivey, who's joined us today to break down the issues of the day. And I wanted people to understand, even though we talk on the broadcast about it, there are so many more nuances that have to be discussed, so many more lanes that have to be traveled down. And so you need technicians and specialists like Al, and you also need those who are on the ground that move the people, like Doug. Everybody has a role, and every role is so crucial. If one person's not doing their role, it doesn't matter what the TV camera is focused on. It matters what we're focused on. That's going to be our initiative and our drive in 2021.
Yes.
More importantly, when those groups come together, when those various focal points and areas of strategy come together, we will win at every table. And like Al said, Tulsa, whether it be 4th Avenue, whether it be Greenwood. The list goes on of great blueprints that already exist. The only thing it's waiting on is us.
Yes,
it's time for us to come together and make a difference, and more importantly, move forward. Al Spivey, Doug Reed, I love both of you brothers with all my heart, man. I am honored to have you in my life as leaders, as those that I can talk to. What kind but it's important, because if you don't have those that pull you up, you won't have the opportunity to lift another up, because you'll be in the same space. And so you brothers constantly pull me up. I honor you, appreciate you, love you to death. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of Heart City TV.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Malik.
Well, I appreciate you. So you've heard from my big brothers, Al Spivey and Doug Reed. Look, all politics are local, all change begins locally. It's time for us to understand the nuance of this game, understand the back end of the story, not just what you see on MSNBC and CNN and other media outlets. And then more importantly, you have to support Black media, because nobody's going to tell our story like us. It's just how it is. And they don't really have interest in doing so. And I'll give you examples of what happens. Major advertisers will say, it's more advantageous for me to pay for advertising on a predominantly white network, or a network that has less diversity. Why? Because if it has certain kind of programming, I know that Black folk will come anyway. So we'll just grab one major Black show or two major Black shows, because we know eventually those Black folk will get there. The advertiser just pays for advertising around that show. And then they choose to give the peanuts to the Black media. And that's why shows have come and gone as it relates to Black entertainment, Black television, specifically Black news. So when you see us on these kind of platforms, support those individuals. There are many of qualified individuals that are in the space that are broadcasting and doing it extremely well. Give them a shout out, share the show. It's not going to cost you a thing. They have a donation opportunity, do that. Apparel opportunities, do that. Because as we move forward in between 2020 and 2022, our story has to be so prominent, so in your face, that it becomes absolutely impossible not to legislate any progress in our direction. We must win, and we will win because of you and all the great work that you're doing. We thank you for supporting us as always. The ways you can do that, really simply, just subscribe today. Go to the YouTube channel, become part of the Heart City page, click the subscribe button and the little bell to notify you when we're going live. You'll get new updates, notifications, and you'll have bonus content. For those who have checked us out on the Now Network, yes, we are now live on Now TV. We are over 56 million subscribers inside of the Now Network, and overseas as well. That airs every Tuesday at 11 p.m. Make sure you go and check out Heart City Now on the Now Network. Thank you to all of our guests who have provided value, who have given insight, advice, who have helped us to share a laugh and good times. We love you in all that you do. And for you, our Heart City family, I need you to feel beautiful, look beautiful, and act beautiful. Why? Because you truly are beautiful. I'll see you next week.